So you've just gotten a vocal chain or template from the helpmedevon.info site. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through some tips and tricks that you need to know and should know when approaching this Logic session. Let's get right to it. Okay, so as soon as you open the actual folder to what you have downloaded, this is what you're greeted with. You're greeted with stock, a FabFilter screenshot, the session itself, and a very important please read me file. Now, the only things that you really need to pay attention to is when you see the word stock and when you see the actual name of the actual template or vocal chain that you have gotten from the site. Now, what's the difference? Long story short, the stock, the one that says stock, is a stock version of the full version that is in the folder. So now you have access. If you don't have all the plugins, you can use the stock version session to actually run your vocals and work out of. And this is for people that don't have the full session as far as the plugins are concerned. But if you have the full plugins that we have provided for you in that list, in the description or in the README, then basically what you're doing is you're using the one that does not say stock. So when you click stock, that is only using plugins that are native to Logic. Very, very similar in sound, but it's different in the sense of the plugins that it's using. So that's the difference in that folder between the stock and the one that it doesn't say stock at all, and it's just a session file, okay? All right. Other thing that you'll see in this folder is a FabFilter screenshot. Now, what the FabFilter screenshot is a screenshot of the FabFilter 1. The reason why we did this is because FabFilter 2 is available. Some of you have FabFilter 2. Now, unfortunately, with FabFilter, you can't go, as far as the Saturn is concerned, you can't download FabFilter 1 anymore. So what we did was, if you have FabFilter 1, it will work perfectly fine. You don't even need to click on this thing. But if you have FabFilter 2, we provided a screenshot that you can then take and put onto FabFilter 2 so that you can use it like FabFilter 1. So it's a screenshot of the FabFilter 1 plugin just in case you have FabFilter 2 and need the actual settings. So that's all that is. If you have FabFilter 1, this doesn't even apply to you. You're fine. Okay. Next thing we'll do is we'll go right into a session. So say, for instance, I clicked the smallchild.logicx, depending on whatever one, flowers and roses, whatever template that you have just downloaded, this is the one you're going to click. Not the stock, but I'm clicking my regular one, my full waves version of this whole thing. And here's what I'm greeted with, right? Okay, so I open the session and here I am. Now, the first thing that you see within the session is you see a 2-track and you see a record here track. What the 2-track track is basically where you put your instrumental, where you put the beat or whatever your instrument is. What you would do is you go to File, Import, click Audio File, and basically you drag that thing right onto the 2-track. And this is basically where you would put your instrumental. The other track that you're greeted with is a Record Here track. And this is pretty self-explanatory. This is exactly where you're going to be recording your audio. Now, you may be saying to yourself, I'm not hearing anything. Well, here's what you have to do. You have to set your input from your microphone to this track. So everyone's DAW is different. Within the template and vocal chain, we've set it to no input just because we don't know what interface you're using. So if your mic audio signal comes in on input 1, that's exactly what you're going to set it for. If it comes in on input 3, that's what you're going to set it the input for this track on. Let me show you. So you come right over here to the mix window and basically you click input. Obviously, this is on the Record Here track. You click input, click your input, and boom. That's basically you setting the microphone that you're using to this track. Now, you should be good to go and ready to record just by arming the actual track. And that's all you really need to know when using this entire vocal chain. The last thing that I'll show you guys is basically our effect sins that we also have in some of the vocal chains and some of the templates. When it comes to these, you can get them right here. They're all labeled. You see short verb, long verb, eighth delay, and some of them don't have any at all. But if you have one of the vocal chains or templates that have these sins, this is basically how you would use them. You come right down to the Record Here track and you can see already that there's a certain amount of volume going out of these sins into those tracks. If you want more short verb, guess what you do? You take this and you crank it up, just like this. If you wanted more long verb, you go down here and crank it up. If you wanted more of that eighth note delay, you go right here and crank it up or down. If you don't want to hear it at all, just turn it off just by pressing these buttons right here. It's totally up to you how you want to manipulate the vocal chain or preset and use it to your advantage.